All right, welcome to our live stream. This is Just Got Played. I'm Steven, that's Erock, that's Bob, and we are talking about the best year in gaming. So, what does that mean, the best year in gaming? Well, I decided to give a little bit of guidance to these fellas, and the idea was imagine that you could only ever, for the rest of your life, play games from 1 year, right? So games that were published in that one calendar year for the rest of your life. What year would you pick? And I was personally I was focusing mostly on tabletop games, but there's RPGs, there's video games. I mean, you can mix all that in there. You can even talk about movies and music if you really want to, but it was gaming that I was focused on. For me, I thought this was going to be really hard. I thought this list was going to be really hard to make. I was like, how am I even going to do this, right? And I just went and looked at my favorite games, and it just jumped out at me. No problem. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting either. But what about you guys? How about you, Erock? How was this process for you to come out with this?
Well, so as in most things, I have multiple things to say on the subject. Uh, First and foremost, I thought, oh, well, I didn't think it would be easy. I knew this was going to be hard because there's so many good games that are released every year, but I figured we were doing board games. So that's what I researched. And then somebody mentioned to me, maybe he's going to talk about video games and stuff too. And I was like, well, that could actually change things then. So I kind of have two picks. So we'll kind of get into that.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that you have multiple picks, Erock.
Yeah, go figure, right?
Yeah. So Bob, how did you go about figuring out
Well,
this?
at first I started off with the list of the games that I own, but that tends to skew a little old because I've got a large collection of games from the 70s and 80s. And while those have a lovely rosy red nostalgia, hi, Dad.
Hi,
We're on the,
Dad.
Hi,
we're on the,
Dad.
while those have a lovely rosy nostalgic tint to them, they don't really hold up. I mean, in truth, uh, I I would not sit down and go, "Oh my God, you've got to play Dune, Avalon Hill versus Dune Imperium." So I did that. And I thought, okay, fine. Well, let me look at the games that I've played, the games that are on my wish list of games that I want to play, and I'll just take a look at the Board Game Geeks top games for each year. So I sat back, started, let's just randomly pick a year, 2010. I went and I looked all the games that are on the 2010 list, 11, 12, 13. So I did 2010 through 2022. Actually, I did 2023, but didn't find a lot on that list that I wanted. And I found anywhere from 7 to 14 games in every single year that I thought this would be great. If these were the games that I could play, this would be a great collection of games. Um, one year did jump out considerably to me, however, and that had the most games. It had a terrific video game and computer game collection, and had a pretty decent set of movies that came out that year too. So I did eventually settle on one, but if I were to argue a case, if someone said, Bob, I want you to go with this year instead, I could probably argue a case for any one of 10 different years out of that 13-year spread.
Yeah, I mean, if the year starts with a two, I probably would be fine with all
Yeah.
the games on offer. I thought for myself, my year would start with 201 something, but it doesn't. And I thought yours, Bob, was going to be 1980 something, but it sounds like I'm
Well,
wrong.
I could have picked 1980 because, as is well known on this channel, my favorite game of all time is Civilization. But honestly, it's not a game that I'm likely to get to the tabletop real often because it's a game that takes a long time and it has 7 or 8 players to play it well. And it's just not something that I'm going to play probably unless I'm at a con.
Yeah.
And so while I think it's the greatest game of all time, it's not the greatest year in games of all time.
Yeah, I hear that. I do think though that if I were limited in scope to this narrow year of games, there are games on that list that I probably in reality am never going to play again, but I would play them, and I would play them a lot. You
Right.
know, if I was narrowed down to that list, you know. So if, for instance, Civilization, if it were in my year, I would make sure to get a group together and play that game a bunch.
Well, and the thing about Civilization is there's Mega Civ, there's Eastern Empires, there's Western Empires. There are a lot of games that mimic what Civilization does. So I don't think there's actually one in the year I picked, but
Yeah, you
it's
know,
kind of how it goes.
there's one thing that came to me while I was looking at the list, which was, what about expansions? If an
I did not count
expansion comes out
expansions.
in that year, does that mean I can count the base game and the
I counted
expansion?
base games only.
Mm,
Now, I'm not saying that's a bad rule. Just
I
when I
also
selected,
counted base games only. However, I think you can cheat with additions.
I did. I
Yeah.
included
Yes.
additions. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's true. So did I. I have additions on mine actually. So I feel like I'm gonna be chronologically first. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start. Like I said, I expected to start with 201 something, but I'm not even starting with a two. I'm starting with 1997, which
wow.
is the year of Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba. Not a good year in music, probably.
That's why you chose this, isn't it?
Yeah,
You got knocked
absolutely.
down apparently. So
Yeah, yeah. No Doubt. Tragic Kingdom by No Doubt also came out that year, that album. But anyway. But games. I looked at my list. I keep a lot of ratings on Board Game Geek, so I just went to, hey, look at my list and start going down the list. I'm like, oh look, 1997, 1990. What? Like I never would have guessed, but For Sale, which is, I used to say is my favorite auction game of all time. Raw maybe is giving it a run for its money, but I really love For Sale. It is very simple to teach, plays up to 6 people. It's real fast, and it's just distilled auction, right? It's a great auction game. Formula D is one of my favorite games of all time, which came out, the nice Asmodee edition came out later, but Formula Day, DE, which is, I think, the first edition of it that had the custom dice. Like there was an early version from like 1991 that had like, I think a single D20 and then like a
I think
lookup
that's right.
table and stuff or something. It's
Yeah.
just, but this is, I think, the first version that came with the custom dice for each of the gears, and consequently, this is the version they made a ton of different maps for. So a lot of the real world race courses. And so, I love Formula Day. I noticed that Metro was on the list. Now, I really like San Francisco Cable Car because it has the stock companies, little minor expansion in there. I like to play that game with the stock companies included, but I could just print and play the stock companies on a copy of Metro because it is basically that game. It was Metro and then it was Cable Car and then it went back to being Metro and then Cable Car again and Metro again. I don't know, it's very confusing what they do with this product line, but I really like that game. Again, it plays 6 players, it's pretty fast, it's easy to teach. There weren't a lot of great party games from this year, but my group, it feels almost like a party game, is Bonanza. And Bonanza is from here, from this year, and that's 7 players, trading game, a really excellent trading game. Because it keeps it moving along, because the rules keep it from getting bogged down or whatever, and how the trading works. And it's got an interesting hand mechanism that is different from a lot of them. And then there's other stuff, right? Like there's Ultimate Stratego, which I don't even know what Ultimate Stratego is, but you can play a regular Stratego with an Ultimate Stratego board, right? So there's just things like that where you wouldn't think that you would miss something like that, but it's nice to have that maybe to play with the kids. Do you know what the highest rated game from 1997 is? I'm guessing you don't.
I would have said
But
For Sale.
it's a Kinesia title. I think it's
Mm.
the highest rated Kinesia title.
Ooh, T&E.
Tigris and Euphrates. And this is, so I would be missing some of those abstract games. There's things like Corridor, which I've never played in 1997, but like I'd be missing chess, for instance, right? But Tigris and Euphrates is a really interesting sort of brain burny abstract game. And I used to have it and I used to play it and then I played it some on the app and then I just, who am I going to play that game with really is why I ended up getting rid of it. But if I were limited to 1997, I would absolutely go back to that game, right? And I think it would be a lot of fun.
I enjoyed that game quite a bit, so I hear you. But it's kind of a bear, so I get it.
Well, maybe not as much as the next game I'm going to mention because you know, a lot of the games I mentioned were light, simple games because those are games that I can just easily play with other people. They're easy to get to the table, etc. But you know, I was missing some of the more complicated games. Tigris and Euphrates falls in that category of being a little more brain burning, complicated. But so this is a game that I would never play. I would never play this game unless I were stuck in 1997. And that's because they're on the fourth edition of this game now, and I know absolutely nothing about what's different about it or what the first edition is. But Twilight Imperium, the original, is from 1997. So
Wow.
if I were locked in 1997, you betcha I would hunt that copy down and play that game because I've been wanting to play Twilight Imperium anyway. But you know, I'd play fourth edition or whatever if I had a
Yeah,
chance
absolutely.
now. But you know, I can't imagine that first edition is bad considering they've made four editions of it, right? You know,
I think
Well,
Fantasy Flight pretty much
they
founded
had
their
to
whole
fix it three
company.
times, right?
yeah, I don't know what they fixed about it three times. So one time
I don't know either,
one
but
time I think really was just a component difference, wasn't it? Three? Was it three? I can't remember, but
I'm not sure.
yeah, I don't know, but oh, there is another party game actually that I like, but it's a specific type of party game in that you have to know the people well that you're playing it with. And it's called Loaded Questions. Have you guys ever played Loaded Questions?
Yeah, I
It's
think so.
yeah. It's the simple idea is there's some question like I don't know where do you want to go on your ultimate vacation, and everybody writes down an answer, and then you have to guess who gave what answer. And so it's just a fun activity, and you learn a
Mhm.
lot about people. I mean, it's not really fun if you're just like, oh, I have no idea what anybody wrote because I don't know these people, right? You have to know
Right.
the people and be able to guess, you know. But then you also learn other stuff about people. Like, really, that's where you want to go on vacation? That's surprising. I didn't know that, you know.
Right.
Like, so that's a fun game. More to play with family, I guess, is how I usually do it. But I've played it with close friends before too, and I enjoy that game. There's other games that I haven't played, like Mississippi Queen. It looks like a lightweight family game that would be fun. Primordial Soup, which is just about eating and pooping. Uh, right? It's funny that you would just. I, there's just other games I would explore, right, on this
Right.
list that I'm probably never actually gonna play, but I absolutely would if I was stuck there.
Right.
Incidentally, of course, because it's 1997, there were expansions. And I didn't take a lot of look at those, but man, I wanted to pull it in here because it's one of the great classics of all time. Is from 1995, but got some expansions 2 years later. And that game is anyone?
Axis and Allies,
No, 1995.
95. Cosmic.
No, El
No, that was
Grande.
earlier than
Betrayal.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, El
Cosmic
Grande.
Encounter was like 1977, man. It's way back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, no, yeah, there was a re-release that,
yeah.
but
El Grande was from 1995, but they had some of those expansions that you get in the Decennial Edition or whatever came out. I
That
can't remember
nobody
which
ever
one.
plays with because the base game's just perfect. So
Yeah, I've actually heard that one of them changes it up in interesting ways. But yeah, I've always got somebody new, so I never bother with that when we play. But you know, if it let me sneak it in there, I mean, there's other stuff like there's a Catan expansion, of course, in 1997, right? So could I sneak Catan in there? You know, I'm not really itching to play Catan these
Right.
days. I sort of feel like I played Catan out. Not that it's a bad game. It's just I'd rather play something else because I played a lot of Catan, right?
yeah.
But hey,
I agree with that sentiment. I'm just burned out.
yeah,
Well,
It's a fine game. It's just not for me anymore.
yeah, in some ways, it's maybe one of the most important games in the modern game age because it actually made board gaming okay for adults again, right? It was always like kids and then
Outside of
wargaming
us,
nerds
who are just going to
grognards.
do it anyway,
Yeah,
right?
well, the casual board gamer, right? Catan introduced that to the casual board gamer without having to be an Avalon Hill idiot or you're playing Candyland and Sorry,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It introduced that concept of the adult gamer, and adult meaning with person of age, not
Well, it
like there are some games like that too, but
yeah,
um,
it introduced those of us in the United States to German board games, right? I mean,
right,
there because in Germany, people had been it was normal to play board games like that for years and years and years. But in the United States, it was, yeah, like you're saying, it's like you were either playing Clue or you were playing, a hex counter war game, right? There was no sort of in
Right. There's nothing
between.
really in between.
Yeah. So, all right. So I think that's all the board games I'm going to talk about from 1997. Incidentally, I looked at RPG Geek as well for role playing games, but I didn't really see anything. But I'm not really a role player. I mean, I play older role playing games like, hey, 50th anniversary of D&D this year, by the way, right? Like, so I played D&D and BattleTech and GURPS and Paranoia. Those are all sort
Yeah,
of old. So
I
when
played
look
all
at
of those.
yeah, so when I look
Yeah,
at the list of new RPGs from
I don't know
1997, I'm
anything
like,
anymore.
I don't know, are these good? I don't know. So
Yeah.
don't shoot me for not pulling up RPGs. I didn't know. Like I looked to see if there was anything obvious, and I didn't know, so I don't have any of those listed. But I got some stuff here about. I talked about music, but I got stuff here about movies and video games. But I think I've talked enough, so I'll come back to that. Let's go over to Bob because
All right.
I really want to know what year you settled on for sure, and I want to hear why.
All right. So I settled on 2016, mainly because of the quality of games. There was a ton. This is the one that had 14 games on my list that just jumped out at me that either I played and I like, or I want to play, or have been talked about very highly on this channel. And it includes, of course, things like Terraforming Mars, Star Wars Rebellion, Side, Mechs versus Minions, Clank, uh, Dominion. And then there are games that appeal to me as a solo gamer, like a Feast for Odin. Great Western Trails, the first edition of that came out in 2016. There's a great little game. In fact, it's one of the first quote unquote modern board games that I ended up buying, one called The Colonists, which looks like a great little, I mean, not little, it's a great looking economy management, tile placement kind of game. Blood Bowl 2016, Crisis, Secret Hitler. I mean, there are so many games that just, to me, I'm like, give me 5 of these and I'm happy for the rest of my life, right? Much less the whole 14. And if I just even cut it off at 10, I'd be like, okay, I am set for the rest of my natural life with Agricola, the revised edition of that came out. And I know it's not for everybody, but I think it's another one of those games that if you like worker placement, it's got a place on the table for you. If you don't like worker placement, then it might not, right? But it was hard because there's some games that I'm really going to miss from other years. But to me, this was just the quality struck me as, again, the games that not only the ones I want to play, but I think would have a good time with getting to the table. Terraforming Mars, everybody is like, wow, that's a great game. Side, I've heard, mixed things about. I've played on the computer; it's pretty decent.
Some people really love Scythe.
It's a love or hate game, right? People love it or people hate it. Clank, again, I've not played it yet, but you guys have gone nuts over this game on this channel, and it's on my purchase list. Yeah, there you go. It's on my purchase list simply because of the reviews that you guys have given it, and to me, there was again a lot of games that it took me a while to decide because I'm going to miss some games that I really enjoy playing, but I like a lot of niche games, and those kind of came out a little bit later. And we'll go into those, I think, a little bit afterwards because I don't want to spoil someone's thunder in case they picked one of those years. But again, to me, it was just the mass quality at the very top that made me go with this one.
So when we were chatting about this topic on our Discord channel, come join our Discord channel if you want to chat about these topics. There's a link in the description of the video. So Neutral, one of the, he's in the comments actually. He had mentioned that 2016 was his pick for the year.
I know, and that's almost made me change my mind because
well,
I'm like, dang it, Ryan, why'd you pick that?
I went and looked at it and I was like, ooh, yeah, that's a good pick. I mean, you named a lot of good games, but I looked at the list too because Neutral had said it, and there were some things that you didn't name that I would have named, but before I get to that, I want to check over here with Erock to see.
Okay, so remember when I said I have two answers for this question?
Uh-huh.
My first answer is 2016.
Yeah.
2016 is unbelievably loaded. And yeah, I mean, you just rattled off what, 10, 15 awesome games, and you missed a few.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, okay, I'm going to say a couple of them a couple of times because they're awesome. Like Feast for Odin, that's very high on my list. You missed Arkham Horror, the card game. I love
It,
Arkham Horror, the card
it's
game.
on it's
That
on
is
my
so much
extended
fun.
past the top 10 list. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it totally like, encapsulates Arkham Horror in this little card thing with a draw bag. It's so much fun. Mansion of Madness Second Edition came
Mhm.
out 2016. That's fantastic. Aeon's End. I like that game a lot. Babe and I have a lot of fun playing. We played a lot of the Legacy one, but this is the original, and it's still very good. Lorenzo Il Magnifico. That's
Oh, that's
very
2016.
high
Okay.
on my personal list. Like, I just, if we're talking about board games, I agree with you. It's 2016. 2016 is just loaded. There are, all right,
Y-
just in the BGG top 100 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
We're gonna be here a while.
11, 12 games in the top 100.
Oh, that's all. I thought it would have been more.
And there's like 106, 123, 126, 131, etc.
So some games you didn't name, and I know Tiffany would back me up here. Role Player is
Yeah,
2016.
Role Player
Um,
2016.
yeah,
Fantastic.
Energy Empire, which I think is a fantastic worker placement game.
Mhm.
That's 2016. You know, I like my Luke Glory games. King Domino, which is a game I love to play with my wife and kids. Right? That's, I mean, they're maybe outgrowing it a little bit, but we'll still play it, and it's still
It's
fun.
still a good game. I mean,
And
we started playing that. We don't own it per se, but we started playing that when we were well into the hobby, and that's a fun game,
yeah, it's still
a light
good.
little fun game. I
And
mean, Millennium Blades was 2016. This is one of those that I have a really hard time committing to and getting to the table because it's such a thing. But if I was stuck in 2016, I would absolutely play Millennium Blades. That game is fantastic.
yeah,
It's a
exactly.
game about the collectible card scene that actually has a game for the cards in it. So it's like a dual layered.
Game
It's
within a game.
fantastic. Yes.
So
Mystic Vales 2016. We like that one a whole lot. That's, put slide stuff into cards and you're making cards as you go.
yeah,
I can go on for days.
yeah, I love Keyflower, and I don't know what year Keyflower is published, but Key to the City London is 2016, which is very much like Keyflower. Um, so
Key
yeah,
Flowers 2012.
what's that? Keyflower's
Key
2012.
Flowers
Yeah,
2012. Yeah.
yeah.
Because it's on one of my mini lists of like, these are games that I hate not playing, and so
Have you played Colonist, Bob?
I have not played it. I have watched a couple of videos on getting it played, and I actually set it up on the board. I was going to try a single player game of it, and then I think I got Watergate and put
Things
Colonist away.
happen.
Played Watergate instead.
Yeah, Babe and I have played that. We like it. It's long, and you
Mhm.
kind of need to play the whole game. Like, there's
Mhm.
a method for putting it away in between eras, but that method, I'm sorry if you're listening, people who did this, but it's kind of BS because you don't actually like put everything back in the same place. You just kind of rack up the points for everything you have and then spend those points when you come back. And that's not the same town. You
No,
know,
no big deal.
but play it out. Like play the whole thing. It'll be long. It'll be like 6 hours, but it was a whole lot of fun. So that's a good one. 2016. Awesome.
Well, so while we're still in 2016, then let's talk a little bit about video games. So,
Let us.
and
See, this is where it falls off for me because I am really not impressed by the video games from
well, let
2016.
me tell you, this is going to sound a little weird, but after we decided we are going to do this topic, after I had picked my year, in my Google News feed, an article came up and it was the top 100 video games of all time from Popular Mechanics, which is okay. So I was
Experts
like,
on the
well, I'm going to
Okay.
subject.
click on
Yes.
that then. So. So they're probably much better top 100 lists out there, but if it's on that list, it's got to be a good game. So there are two games from 2016 on that list. At number 77 was Overwatch, and
I played Overwatch. It's fine.
yeah, and at number 71 is Stardew Valley.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's not on my list that I pulled up.
Now,
I've got like
I
Dark Souls 3, but big deal, it's 3. And apparently Pokemon Go was
oh, no kidding.
2016.
Well,
I also looked at Video Game Geek and
mhm.
just looked for my favorite games from 2016, and those would have to be XCOM 2,
Yep,
which I think is an
that's the
excellent,
one.
yeah, and Grim Dawn, which if you don't know the history of Grim Dawn, it's a Diablo-like game, but it was people who had worked on Titan Quest broke off and licensed the Titan Quest engine and made their own company and kickstarted the game Grim Dawn, and so it's an excellent Diablo-like game. What games you got from 2016, Bob?
Well, there is a terrific game called Forza Horizon 3,
Oh yeah,
which is a great little race game. Uh, XCOM 2, Tom Clancy's The Division, which is a pretty decent shooter. Titanfall, which is okay. Darkest Dungeon is kind of a
Darkest
cute
Dungeon, I like
little,
that game.
yeah. But Stellaris, which is one of those Paradox, will add 12 million expansions to it, and
Yes,
eventually will come.
Paradox. They
Yeah,
make great games if you get the $300 worth of all of it.
yeah. But Civilization 6 came out in 2016,
I
and that to me is one of the. I mean, I've got more hours in it than I do any other
That's interesting.
computer
That
game.
didn't show up on my
really so
list.
it showed up on my list, and I didn't note it because I like Civ 4 so much
Oh,
better
you're
than
one of
5 or
those.
6. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You're one of those.
Well, it depends on how you like to play
You're a
Civilization.
Civ snob, aren't you?
Well,
Oh,
it depends on how you like to play Civilization. If you like to have a
right.
Civ game that lasts you a month because you have a sprawling, huge empire and a giant world, then you kind of need to play 4 or 3 or something because in 5 and 6 they sort of made it where you basically have to play in smaller maps. It's not as epic of an experience of what I was used to from Civ. So I'm not saying Civ 5 and 6 are bad. I'm just saying I prefer 3 or 4. I think
But again,
4.
I'm stuck in a year. I'm
Yeah.
playing that computer game.
Yeah, well, yeah,
That's
Yeah, I didn't
absolutely
realize
right. I would play it too if yeah.
that might be enough. Just Civ. I've got hundreds of hours in Civ 6. Absolutely.
yeah.
All right. Well,
You know,
wow.
side note,
Yeah.
I'm just saying League of Legends pulled in $1.7 billion in 2016. $1.7 billion.
Yeah. I wonder how much Stardew Valley brought in. I don't know if it was a slow burn on that game.
$1.7.
Yes.
Actually, Overwatch brings in a lot of money too. You would be
Yeah,
amazed how much people will spend on skins.
Yes.
Um,
crazy.
Loot boxes.
yeah. So while we're on video games, though, I'm going to roll it back to 1997 because I think 1997 had 2016 beat in video games, and Popular Mechanics agrees. So I
I
just gotta
haven't come back
say,
that far, but we'll look.
I just gotta say, number 94 on their list was Star Fox 64, the Nintendo 64
Oh, I
version of
played
Star
that.
Fox.
It's a good game.
Number 53 was Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which apparently was the first Castlevania that sort of was the open world, whatever, sort of freedom to play, not on rails. First Castlevania that sort of set the franchise up for that. I'm not a fighting game person, but number 41 was Tekken 3. I don't know what's special about the 3 version of Tekken. And number 10, now those were all sort of sequels or whatever, but at number 10 we have an original game, and it's GoldenEye 007 for the
Ooh,
Nintendo 64.
that was a
Very
good
popular.
game.
Even today, people still play that on the Nintendo 64 and are trying to port it to different systems because of how
I mean,
much they
back in
like
the
it.
day, we had one of those, grandma TVs that's like in a cabinet, and we would sit four people like 3 feet away from that to play GoldenEye for hours, hours on end.
And at, I think it was number 4, I've got the wrong note written here. So 2 in the top 10. At number 4 is what I think is regarded as the best Final Fantasy game of all time, Final Fantasy VII. And those are the ones in the Popular Mechanics top 100 and that missed several games that I really like and think are significant, including the original Fallout. And what I mean is the original game called Fallout. There was Wasteland before that, from the
Mhm.
80s or whatever. But so that Fallout isometric game that sort of set the tone for the franchise. And I really loved that game. I mean, that was the first game I can remember where your character, how you constructed your character, dramatically affected the playthrough of the game, right? You could set a character as just super high charisma and just walk through that game without fighting anybody, just like talking your way out of every situation. It was amazing. I was really pleased with how integrated the character system was with that. I'd never seen that in a computer role playing game before. Hey, you talked about Forza, but the original Gran Turismo came out in 1997, so that was a big deal. And then, of course, the game that sort of set the tone for all the modern MMOs also came out that year, which is Ultima Online.
Interesting.
So a lot of video
Age of
stuff.
Empires. So great game. Age of
Age
Empires.
Yep.
Dungeon Keeper.
Yeah,
The Curse of Monkey Island. Let's see. The first Total Annihilation game came out. There was actually a Magic the Gathering computer implementation that year. Star Wars
And
Jedi
every
Knight
year since.
2.
Yeah, the Jedi
Right.
2, yeah.
Let's see. Heroes of Might and Magic 2. Looking at Video Game Geek. Star Wars X-Wing versus TIE Fighter is a great space fighter game.
I played a lot of video games in
They
1997.
really are. There were some good ones. Didn't
comes
suck.
rushing back.
Mortal Kombat 4. Ultima Online came out that year. Postal.
No, yeah.
Postal.
Oh my God.
It,
Wing Commander
It-
Prophecy. I mean, again,
that's a good game.
if I'm stuck in 1997, I would not be
You wouldn't be starving for video.
hard up for video games to play. Right.
Now, do you know what the top-grossing movie of 1997 was?
1997. Titanic.
Although Titanic came out in 1997, I guess it came out towards the end of the year because it's not the top-grossing movie.
Hey, I got the right year. That's funny.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That is good.
But it was not the top-grossing movie, and in fact, I've never seen it. But seems like everybody else has. The top-grossing movie of 1997 is one that I enjoy: Men in Black.
Men
Okay.
in Black is a great movie. Yes.
But do you know what else was re-released into theaters in 1997? The first 3 Star Wars movies in their special editions.
20th anniversary of Star Wars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in fact, Star Wars 4, A New Hope, was the number 5 grossing movie that year. So, just saying, if you were
Pretty
stuck
good.
in 1997, you could go see all 3 of the Star Wars movies in theaters. That's pretty good.
Well, we didn't ever get Erock's second year, so let's hear his
Well,
video game
well,
year.
let me
So.
I'm just gonna put 1997 to bed. But
Okay.
the other movies that
It's old enough. It's past its bedtime.
yeah the other movies
It ate dinner at 4:30.
that are significant to me anyway from 1997 are Contact, The Fifth Element, Starship Troopers.
Oh, Fifth Element. Nice.
And of course, since GoldenEye was on the video game list, that tells you that Tomorrow Never Dies was from 1997. But also, so was Austin Powers.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. All right. I'm done with 1997. Let's get Erock's other pick, and then we'll revisit 2016's movies and such.
This was almost my first pick anyway. But once we threw in the computer games and all that, before I realized that Civ 6 was in 2016, I'm going to go with 2011 as my actual answer for this question. And this is partially because I happen to be completely obsessed right now with War of the Ring. I've decided that I want to be the #1 player in the world. There's a fantastic community on Facebook. There's an awesome Discord channel. And there are a lot of people that put out videos. I have watched dozens of gameplay videos on this. Like, I am just obsessed with War of the Ring. And the second edition War of the Ring came out in 2011, which is the right edition, as it were. Like, there hasn't been an edition since second edition, and they fixed some things in the first edition, so this is the right one. So 2011 second edition War of the Ring came out. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. It is Lord of the Rings in a box, kind of. I mean, it's from the Fellowship forming in Rivendell. From that point on, it's the entire Lord of the Rings world and everything that could possibly happen. I absolutely adore this game.
we're gonna host a convention now and have the World Championship of War of the Ring. Is that what you're saying? So you can officially declare yourself
I
as
would
the best
love that.
player in the world?
The JGP Con. There we go.
I would love that. But as it is, there are leagues. I'm considering joining a league. There are leagues, and they have a championship amongst themselves. There is apparently, you can play this on like Tabletop Simulator, but there's also a Java app, and that's where most of the actual competition, the leagues, the annual, tournament and all that happens. So I'm into that extremely hard right now. And that came out in 2011. And if I had chosen another year, this would absolutely be the thing that I missed the most. I would miss War of the Ring, especially right now, because I'm, like I said, I have like a renaissance, as it were, for me personally, and War of the Ring, and it would kill me just to lose that at this particular moment in time. However, I do have a few other games from that year.
Yeah.
So I could play Castles of Burgundy nonstop every day. That game is fantastic.
No special edition for you.
No, wait. Oh,
It's 2011. No special edition for you.
No, I'm taking my special edition back. It's so pretty. That game is fantastic. Just a game where you're building up a little like tableau of countryside kind of on this map with different buildings and farm animals and castles and mines, but every turn you roll 2 dice and each one of them is an action. This one might let me get a tile, this one might let me place a tile, I might have to turn it in for some guys for some mitigation, I might sell some goods that I've got. Like, it's a really kind of simple-ish game as far as like you roll 2 dice, you take 2 actions. That's your turn for the round. But I could play this game over and over and over again. It's one of these things that I thought was good when I first played it, but it has steadily increased. Every time I've played this game, I've liked it more. Like I said, I could just sit and play this back to back, day after day, and that's on top of War of the Ring being right there on the shelf as well. I'd be happy to, oh, you don't want to play War of the Ring today? How about some Castles of Burgundy? Because that game is awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's really deep with the connections and what you can do in there. They released 8 million freaking maps or boards for it. So I don't know if technically all of them came out in that year, but I'm just saying. You could probably make your own up. It's just about making a hex thing with different colors in different places. Also, Koleshka came out in 2011.
No kidding. Okay.
Yes, which if you watch us at all, you know that I mention this game way more than I should because it's probably not as good as much as I talk about it, but I really enjoy this game. It's a nice little, like, I don't know, niche historical board game about waiting in line in the Cold War. It's a cool little game. I like that game. Oh, let me see. Those are the ones off the top of my list. All right. I know you boys have been researching, so what else you got?
Several good things here. In fact, one of my favorite games of all time that I've talked about a lot is on here. Do you know what it is, Erock?
Bob? Mage Knight.
No, I haven't played
not
Mage Knight. It's actually there's 2 really good Alan R. Moon games this year.
Oh yeah, Airlines Europe is 2011. That is correct.
That is one of my favorite games of all time. But I noticed down here that the Team Ticket to Ride Asia map is from 2011 as well. So if you've never played Team Ticket to Ride with 6 players, that's a lot of fun.
Mage Knight's a good game. This is one that I bought back in the day, played 4 or 5 times, thought it was incredibly complex, and just kind of got off of it and got rid of it. But if I was stuck in 2011, I would have Mage Knight, and I would figure that game out, and I would enjoy it a lot.
Yeah. I know you like Puerto Rico. The fancy 10th anniversary edition of Puerto Rico was this year.
Oh, well, I can play that too. Look at that.
Yeah, Space Empires 4X, which is one of my favorite GMT games.
Yep.
Risk Legacy came out in 2011. So
nice. No Sekigahara, an excellent 2-player war game.
King of Tokyo.
Yeah, King of Tokyo, Flashpoint, I think was this. Well, that's
nobody plays it right.
I just like monsters destroying things. Come on.
There were several... That's what I want. Monsters destroying things. I don't want monsters sitting there gathering energy and buying cards, which is what that game ends up being.
Okay.
Here's a game.
There were several Lord of the Ring card games that came out that year, 2 or 3. I noted Lord of the Ring card games, in addition to, I mean, didn't write them down, but
I
Village is a cool game where you actually kill off
you
your
bury
people
them in the
and
cemetery. Yeah.
and you get points for it. Like that's
Yeah.
the point of the game. You age them and they die.
So, what game? Here's a game here that I think a lot of people sort of downplay, kind of like we were talking about people downplaying Catan, but I think is an excellent game, and it won the Spiel. Do you know what that one is?
Ooh. Nope.
Donald X
Pass.
Vaccarino?
Dominion?
It's not Dominion. It was his second win.
Oh, Kingdom Builder.
Kingdom Builder. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Kingdom Builder is actually a pretty. I mean, it's
Yeah,
really
that's a good
simple.
game.
Like draw a card, and then when
We
your
still
turn
have
comes
that.
around,
I'm
play
happy
some
to play
stuff.
that.
But it's like it's got some thinkiness to it. That yeah, right.
More than you think, but not
Yeah.
enough to be that serious. You know what I mean? Like,
It's more complex than people give it credit for.
yeah, but it's also not going to be your brain burny 3 hour thing that you do on a Friday night. Like, I like that game. We still have that.
it's not looking the rule book every other turn to see what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones second edition came out in 2011. That's a really good game too. I would play a lot of that if it was 2011.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Game of Thrones. That is sort of my diplomacy replacement, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the first year of Mansions of Madness in
Yeah,
2011?
the
First edition, I thought. I wrote it down.
Maybe the second
Ooh, I
edition
think
was
you might be
2016,
right.
so maybe the
You
first
are
edition
right.
was-
Mansions of Madness. So
okay.
this is pre-app Mansions of Madness.
Last Will is in here, so that's a good
Yep,
worker
Last Will.
placement game with a fun
Good
theme.
Suki.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so lots of good stuff.
Lots of good stuff. And
Video games?
I think I win the video games. Yeah.
Nah, come
So-
on now. I made a pretty strong case for 97.
Because I'm still, now not currently, it's been a little while, but I'm still playing Skyrim. And
There you
Skyrim
go.
came out in 2011.
That is a long time winner. There you go.
Yeah. Portal 2, fantastic. Ocarina of Time, Batman Arkham City, awesome. Mass Effect 2, which is, as everybody knows, the best Mass Effect,
Sure. Star Wars: The Old Republic came out that year.
Knights of the Old
Which is-
Republic?
So
fantastic.
yes.
Oh.
Bastion's pretty good.
Kerbal Space Program, if you like the little
Oh, yeah.
sandbox space game.
Oh, Total War Shogun 2. I have played hundreds of hours of Total War Shogun 2. That game's fantastic. I'm saying, I think I got the video games.
Nah.
I'm happy
Tropico,
in 2011.
Tropico 4, if you want to run your own little.
I do like Tropico.
I've
I've
played a
all the
lot of
Tropico
Tropico.
games.
Yes.
Yeah, Dragon Age 2, which I liked a lot. I love it's a great role playing game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm saying.
If you like racing games, Forza Motorsport 4 came out that year. Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom 3. That's it.
Hey, a version of Madden came out that year. That comes out.
Yeah.
No.
Same with FIFA
Final Fantasy
every year.
3. Quick note, you mentioned Final Fantasy earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It is named Final Fantasy because Square went broke. None of their games were popular, and he thought that would be the last game he'd ever write. So he called it Final Fantasy.
Finally made the game he wanted to make, probably.
Yeah.
That's what he should have been doing the whole time.
Should have been doing it all the time, right?
Oh man. All right. Well, I don't. Do you know the movies?
I'm saying
from
2011. Yeah, I got a little movie search going on.
All right.
I kind of fall apart on movies. I found that there were two really good movies from 2011. One of which is Moonlight. That's very good. Won the best picture at the Oscars and all that. That movie's really good.
It is
And
good.
actually three really good movies. Also, The Nice Guys, which is fantastic. That movie is really, really good. It does not get enough credit for how clever that movie is in many different ways.
I don't think I've seen either of those movies.
Really. And my third absolutely awesome movie from 2011 is The Cabin in the Woods, which is by far my favorite horror style movie because it's so meta. Like, I don't really like horror stuff, but that movie's fantastic. because
That's
it's
a
so meta.
M. Night Shyamalan movie. Is that right?
No, that's it's kind of a satire and a
Okay.
horror movie at the same time because
Okay.
and I don't if you've never seen it, watch it. But
Okay.
I don't want to give too much away because there's like
I'll
two
write it
different
down.
layers of what's going on in this movie. And it's there will be times like the very first time I watched this movie, I'm sitting there going, what the hell is going on? Like, because it's just so wacky what's kind of going on in that. So those are the three fantastic movies I found from 2011. You guys might be able to find something you like. Well, it kind of stops there.
I didn't
Rise of the
really
Planet of
do
the Apes,
I'm
but
gonna look
yeah.
now. What was the highest grossing movie of 2011? Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Fine.
What? There was
It's fine. I'm not.
Transformers,
Yeah, I don't
Twilight
dislike.
Saga,
I'm not a
Pirates
huge
of the
guy.
Caribbean, On Stranger Tides, Twilight
Cars
Saga.
2.
Yeah. Oh, Cars 2.
Now, Captain America: The First Avenger. If you're into
Yeah,
Marvel.
Captain America.
X-Men: First Class came out that year.
Best superhero is Captain America, as everybody
Right.
knows.
What about Kung Fu Panda?
Kung Fu Panda 2.
Yeah,
Kung Fu Panda
2
2.
came out. Yeah.
Let's see. Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. The Green Hornet and the Green Lantern. It was quite a year for green superheroes.
It was a very green year.
It's a very great. No Hulk movie, however, that year.
I'm not seeing a lot here that's good on the grossing list, which of course is not the end all and be all of movies.
No, but there was a
True Grit.
2011. There was a re-release of The Lion King that year. A 3D release. So a Muppets movie.
Oh, Moneyball. Moneyball's fantastic. That's another movie I could watch over and over again because it's just so well done.
Yeah, The Adventures of Tintin.
Black Swan. That's a really good movie. It's really
I hated
disturbing.
Black Swan.
That's really disturbing.
I
It's
did not
very
like
good.
that movie. I thought it was boring.
No, I don't know.
A very Harold
2000
and Kumar Christmas.
There you go. Apollo 18 came out that year. Not Apollo 13, Apollo 18.
I didn't even know that was a movie.
I think
Midnight in Paris. I think that's the Woody Allen one that has Owen Wilson in it, where they like go back in time at midnight. If so, that's a good movie.
All right. Well, let's talk about the movies from 2016 because I don't think
there were a couple
about that.
There
so
were
Bob,
a couple.
Hit us with some.
Sure. Well, first of all, let's just say the number one movie of 2016 was Star Wars. Oops, let me this way. Rogue One, representing here. So Star Wars Rogue One came out in 2016. Captain America's Secret Civil War came out.
That was the number one movie that year?
I think the number two movie.
I think Captain America was the highest.
I think Captain America was the number one.
Was second. Yeah.
Was second, yeah.
Oh, that's impressive. That's a
by a
niche
couple of
Star
animated
Wars
films.
movie.
Secret Life of Pets, Zootopia, La La Land, which won the Academy Award that year for Best Picture, Manchester by the Sea, was another great movie. Sully, if you like the Tom Hanks as a live-action pilot hero. Doctor Strange, the first Doctor Strange movie. The very terrible Batman versus Superman came out that year. Why did you say that name? Why did you say that name, Martha? Let's see. Trolls, I guess, was another one that came out that year. So there was some.
Finding Dory was the big animated movie.
Finding Dory, yes. I didn't have Finding Dory on my list.
The Warcraft
Finding
movie came
Nemo.
out in 16.
You missed Deadpool.
Deadpool.
I am not a fan of Deadpool at all.
Okay.
It's just one of those characters
I like Ryan Reynolds, so.
Yeah, I just have never got into the character. I played him I played Marvel Midnight Suns quite a bit. He was a DLC for that game, and he's so annoying. I just can't stand him.
For Halloween, I went as Guy from Free Guy. So.
Arrival. That's a good movie.
Hidden Figures was 2016.
Yep. Hidden Figures is a great movie. Yeah. So I think 2016 holds its own as a pretty good year overall. If you're stuck in the year now, the only thing that I would say about 2016 that I didn't like, well, I won't go into politics.
Was Sausage Party?
Yeah, we're talking about entertainment here, Bob.
Talking about games and things, so we won't go into that.
I guess politics is entertainment for some people, but
for some people, yes. It's a combat sport, brothers. So games that I'm going to miss because I didn't get to play them in any of my
Yeah.
years or any of your years. I'm going to miss Freedom, the Underground Railroad, quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
I haven't played this, but I want to. The Great Zimbabwe.
Oh,
Oh
I
yeah.
love that game.
I'm going to miss Robinson Crusoe.
Hmm.
I am going to miss Concordia. I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss two really games. I'm going to be sad about is Watergate, which I love. Uh, Making the President 1960, another game I really enjoy.
That's a good
Uh,
game.
and One Small Step, which is the game I think Steven would love. It's a
Yeah, I need to try that.
Race to the Moon. Um, On Mars came out in 2020.
Maybe I should get One Small Step to fill out my Game Nerds order and
They
use
were
that
out of
code.
stock. I looked. I looked because I was going to tell you to get that. Um, Wingspan in 2019. The Crew, the Planet Nine version came out in 2019. Journeys in Middle Earth came out in 2019. So it was another one of those that was tough. 2018 was my runner up because they had Brass Lancashire and Brass Birmingham,
Mm.
Nemesis, Root, Everdale, Quacks of Quedlinburg, Space Corp, which is a good GMT solo game. Third edition of Arkham Horror came out that year. Just that was my toss up second year was to go with that. But the Civ 6 kicked it over to 2016 and made me go there.
So, Neutral made a comment here that I missed earlier, by the way, Erock. He said Black Swan is not a movie you would want to watch again and again. So that's sort of a
Hmm.
valid point if you're talking
That's
about being stuck in a
probably
year
true.
and having to reconsume some of the content. So I think
Hmm.
because I
Touche.
think a
It's like
lot of these
Groundhog Day and
games,
you're forced to watch it over again.
yeah, I mean a lot of these games we're talking about, they're games that we want to play over and over and over and over, right? Like I mean eventually you'll get sick of anything, I suppose, but there's a lot of these games are we like them partially because they're replayable, There's a
Right.
lot of interesting stuff to unpack there. I think for me, the game that I would miss the most, at least right now, and this is partially because I have introduced my children, my 10-year-old boys, to a video game. And this video game it's a 20-year-old remake of a 37-year-old video game. And they are loving it. And it is Sid Meier's Pirates.
Mm,
And so
Oh,
I think the board, and that makes me want to break out Merchants and Marauders and play
mm,
that with my boys.
I
And
can see that.
my
Yeah.
buddy Keelan, he said, "I'll come over and play with you and your boys." It's probably best as a 4-player game, I think. And so I think Merchants and Marauders from 2010, and not only because I really like that game, and it's a game that I sort of want to is just on my mind right now because of that other stuff, but also like it's a sandbox game, right? I want to have one of these sandbox games. I mean, I know there's the Firefly sandbox game. I know there's the Star Wars, Outer Rim sandbox game. Merchants and Marauders is just the one that I've played, and so that's sort of my choice. But
Zaya, Western Legends.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I would like to have a sandbox game, and I don't think I had one on my list from 1997. Yeah, I know there wasn't really a
yeah,
sandbox game. I had
I
the
didn't really
4X
look
game.
at it as a variety of games. So maybe if I approached the list from that direction, it might have like, oh, okay, I need a card tableau game. I need a worker placement game. But I don't
Yeah,
think about games in terms of
yeah.
mechanics.
I
I
didn't.
usually
Oh,
I
go ahead.
theme my games because I like niche games. I love space program games. Race for the Galaxy is one I would miss a lot.
Hmm.
Um, I like politics games, Watergate and the 1960 Making of President. So the niche games are the ones that I think if I could just pick my niche of games, I'd be okay.
Yeah, I didn't really take into account different mechanisms and etc. when I was making my list. I was just looking for games that I like that are clumped in
Mhm.
some year. But having looked at the list, I was kind of like, oh man, I'm missing a sandbox game, and my favorite sandbox game is Merchants of Marauders. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So 2012, we're missing Terra Mystica. Robinson Crusoe, Keyflower,
It's a good year.
Great Zimbabwe. 2013 is Concordia, uh, a
Great
game
game.
called Caverna, which I don't know that I've ever
Cavern is really
played.
good.
It's
Is
the
it?
remake of Agricola.
Okay.
And
Viticulture came out that
Sort
year.
of.
Freedom the
Bob,
Underground Railroad. Sushi Go was 2013.
Bob,
So.
Caverna is basically Agricola, except instead of having cards and everybody gets their own hand of cards, there's just a ton of building tiles, and they're always in every game.
Okay.
Aside
All right.
from that, it's pretty much the same game.
Sounds good.
Agricola is the third best Uwe Rosenberg farming game. Caverna is the second, and the first is Bonanza.
No, you were right up until you said Bonanza, because the first one is A Feast for
That's
Odin.
not a farming game.
Yeah, you can farm cows and stuff.
Really?
Yeah,
You sure about that?
yeah, I'm positive.
I
You can
wouldn't
keep
call it. I wouldn't call it a
if you have
farming
two
game.
cows, they make another cow.
Oh,
For
Now you're
those of you
farming.
who just
all right.
love to take care of people's wish list, A Feast for Odin is my number one item on my wish list. Right, followed
It's
closely
very
by
high on mine. I
first,
love that game.
followed closely by Journeys in Middle Earth. That's another game that I'm
Yes,
not
that
going to play
is.
because it's
We
not
have
my
Journeys in
taste.
Middle Earth and 2 expansions, and all of that is still in shrink. So I'm trying to work on that.
You have a shrink problem, man.
Yes,
Too much shrink.
yes.
Too much shrinkage in your
You have
house.
shrinkage of that site. 2014 had Orleans,
Yeah.
Great game.
Star Wars Imperial Assault,
Very
Roll
good
for the
game.
Galaxy,
Roll's a good game.
Alchemists, Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Abyss was also a 2014 release. 2015 had Pandemic Legacy Season 1, Seven Wonders Duel, the
That's a good
Essential
game.
Edition of Viticulture, uh,
Essential. Yes.
yeah, Grand Austria Hotel, which is one of those games that I look at and go, I might like that. It's weird enough that I might like it.
That game is crazy popular.
It
Yeah.
is crazy popular. I've never played this one.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
by kind of my designers too, and I've never
yeah,
played this one.
Yeah.
yeah. Tiny Epic Galaxy came out in there, and a game that looks kind of like a good party game, Code Names.
Codenames is interesting in that there are two groups of people. One group who says it's absolutely a party game, and then the other group says it's the worst game to play as a party game ever. Because
That's true.
most of the game is people sitting there staring at a person trying to come up with something in silence.
Yeah.
So no, it doesn't really feel party like in that regard.
So, yeah, 2017 was a good year. Gloomhaven featured
Yeah,
prominently there behind you.
that would probably be the thing that I would miss the most if we
Uh,
limited ourselves, would be all the Gloomhaven content. We have played a ton of Gloomhaven. We will probably continue to play a ton of Gloomhaven, and that would be a giant hole.
Would you ever run
Oh.
out, or would you just go back and revisit it if you sort of explored
Probably
it all?
eventually revisit, because we played the original Gloomhaven. I don't think we technically finished our in-person campaign, but we played 2 other campaigns on the computers, and then bits and bobs here and there. So I'm sure we've played the whole thing through 4 or 5 times, and we're playing Jaws of the Lion, and we have Frosthaven in Shrink. Well,
Uh,
that's not really Shrink. They just kind of sticker the bottom to show it hasn't. But
Twilight Imperium 4th edition came out in 2017. Spirit Island,
fantastic,
the
very
Gaia
good.
Project is a great game.
Wait,
Uh,
fourth edition is
Azul-
2017. So in 20 years, they went from first to fourth edition. That's pretty frequent.
It's pretty frequent,
Every 5 years.
and they
Betrayal
keep
of Baldur's
selling.
Gate,
It'll only stop when they stop selling.
yeah. Um, Azul, which is one of those like puzzly games that
That's very popular.
Yeah.
yeah, it is popular. I don't This
I'll
War
give it
of Mine,
that. It's
which is a
popular.
computer game that I like, and a board game I can't imagine playing.
Which one?
This War of Mine.
Oh, I
Ah.
played it as a board game. I would have much rather play it as a video game.
Yeah,
I've done both, though computer way more than board.
yeah.
I do like how it was one of the first games that showed you how to play the game
Mhm.
instead of just giving you a 40-page rule book and saying go for it. So I really, really like that system wherein they teach you how to play a game as you start to play a game. Very much like Jaws of the Lion does with the Gloomhaven rule set.
Mhm.
There's a number of them now, actually. In fact, I'm going to go off on a weird personal thing here, but you've heard us talk. We've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3. I would miss Baldur's Gate 3 if it wasn't. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
that's a
Oh
great
yeah.
game, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, the company that made Baldur's Gate 3 is called Larian. Larian did a bunch of games before called Divinity, Divinity Original Sin, Divinity Original Sin 2, etc. I played those games also, which is one of the reasons I was super psyched about playing Baldur's Gate 3 because I knew those guys. That's what they did. So I knew they were going to be fantastic at it. But the point is, a couple years ago, they kickstarted Divinity Original Sin board game, and I just backed it because I really liked the computer game at the time. Uh, I'm going to long story short you here because that took a long time to come, and there was a lot of hostility and negativity about that game because of the production, standard Kickstarter stuff. I just got it in a couple of weeks ago, and it looks awesome. And it actually does the same thing that I was talking about. Like you open up the box, and it's like, oh, 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 play this tutorial, and it'll show you how to play the
Hmm.
game. And this game did something that's unbelievably awesome. It added to the cost, and it takes up space, but still fantastic. When you're done with the tutorial, you put it all back into that insert and you put that away. Then you take the game out and you play the game, which is a campaign. Point being, if you have somebody new, never played it before, that
You always
tutorial
pull
is
the
always
tutorial.
together in
Yeah.
its own little container so that you can say, well, let's pull out the tutorial, we'll run
Right.
through this and get you used to it, and then we'll go play the game. That's fantastic. Because most games that are at least campaigns, you have to take everything apart to get back to the original state of teaching somebody how to play the game again. So, like I said, it added to the cost and it definitely takes up more space because you're keeping it in the box all the time. But that is fantastic. Thank you for giving us that. That is something I've
Yeah,
never seen in a game before.
that's cool. By the way, Neutral said, forget code names, give him Dixit. Well, if you were in 2011 with Erock, you would have Dixit Odyssey. Uh,
Odyssey,
yeah,
yes,
which
There you
was the
go.
exactly.
one that had the nicer board thing and more players instead of
I
the
played a
original where you used
ton
the
of
back of the
Dixit.
box.
I
Man.
hear you, Neutral.
Yeah,
Yes.
good game. All right,
Yeah. So
go ahead, Bob.
let me just hit these that last couple of top. 2019 had Wingspan, The Crew Planet Nine,
What's
Journeys in Middle
Wingspan?
Earth. It's the
Wormspan. It's
it's a
like
bird.
Wormspan with
It's a,
birds.
it's a bird. It's a bird. It's another bird. Star Wars Outer Rim, Watergate. A game I love, Cartographers.
Hmm.
Is
Yeah,
a
that's a good game.
nice
That's
right
my
home.
top three rolling rights.
2020 was Dune Imperium, Gaia Project, second edition of Seven Wonders, 1960, One Small Step, On Mars, Beyond the Sun, Marvel United, which means we know what JJ would have picked, right? Doesn't matter what year it is, it's got to be Marvel United here. Just kidding, JJ. 2021 was Ark Nova, second edition of Great Western Trail, The Crew, Mission Deep Sea, Cascadia, Hadrian's Wall, Terraforming Mars Ares, Tiny Epic Dungeons. 2022 had Frosthaven, Heat Pedal to the Metal, Oath Sworn into the Deepwood,
You're gonna get a Great Western
Carnegie,
Trail
Endless
every year.
Winter, and Clank Catacombs came out that year. So lots of really good games. You couldn't really, I think, unless you probably picked like 1974 or something, you probably wouldn't have gone wrong with games that uh,
I
had a
forgot
good year.
what was the year that I was having trouble with back when we did Gaming Through Time. It was like 1977 or something where I settled
Yeah,
on
I think that's
Kendo,
right.
where it was
77,
really.
I think Panzer Leader came out that year, and that's
I'm
about
trying to
it
think.
for me.
Whatever year Kendo came out, I'll look it up. That was the
Yeah.
one that I
It's rough back
personally
then.
struggled the most with. 1976. That was the one I
So,
struggled with the most when
so
we.
Erock brought something up that I thought might make a great, not this show comment, but if you look at the number of video games that have become board games, right, and the number of board games that have video game releases, which is the better? Well, I guess one discussion would be which is the better migration, right? Playing board games that get converted to the computer, or computer games like Horizon Zero Dawn that gets turned into a board game. Uh,
Well,
and
good idea. It's very similar to an idea we were arguing about for most of this afternoon.
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
chat, actually.
See? There you go. All right. I'm an idea man. There you go.
All right. Well, we're a little over an hour, so I think I'm going to call it on this one, though. We are just got played. We have been talking about the best year in gaming, and it sounds like 2016 was the general consensus.
Yeah.
Erock, Bob,
I win
Neutral
again.
all said 2016, so I'm overruled. I'm the old man at 1997, apparently. But 2016, if you're looking for the best year in gaming, 2016 is what you got, apparently. So, anyway, again, we're just got played. I'm Steven. That's Erock. That's Bob. And thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Peace out.
Have a beautiful
That's
time.
not how it goes, Bob.
I was peace and love. Peace and love. Ringo. Peace and love, everyone. Peace and love.
All right, boys. That was fun. I'll see you next time.
All right,